Good afternoon. With me today is Tom Woodrow, and we're going to talk about his work with bipolar with you. Tom is someone that I connected with over Instagram. I felt like I found a bird of the same feather when I started following him and seeing his content. And his tagline, reads 20 plus years of balanced moods. And I've added my own little flair, balance and living fully. Tom and I see eye to eye on many things related to bipolar disorder, and giving messages of hope to people. And we are advocates who have gained a level of expertise through our knowledge and sleep hygiene, things like nutrition, exercise. We talk to doctors. I do, but one thing that we bring to the market is the lived experience. And I personally found so much hope and inspiration when I was going through it. And I would find people like Tom, and I would just hear their story and feel like, okay, it's not the end of the world. Like, if they're saying that recovery is possible, then I don't believe it now, but I'm just going to hold on to their words. So with me today is the founder of Bipolar with You, Tom Woodrow. Thank you so much for being on this podcast episode.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. One of the things that I admire about your style is it's very calming. Some of the course materials that you sent me to review before this conversation, it reminded me of why I started following your content, just because your style is very different from my own. I can be very energetic, I can be very direct, more scientific, and I feel like when I listen to you, it's much more calming, very relatable. There's like a connection that I feel that you are highly skilled at. So I'm going to jump into our first question and ask you, what's the reason? Why are you in this work of being an advocate and coach for bipolar disorder recovery?
Well, it's not exactly recovery.
Mhm.
It's being able to manage your moods,
Yeah.
um, set achievable goals that you can then reach, and getting the support and having the knowledge and coping strategies that you can then move forward with your life. Um, and I struggled with that after I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder 1 when I was 19. I had two manic and depressive episodes where I was in psychiatric hospital.
Mm.
And for 8 years, I didn't know what I was doing at all. I had no coping strategies. I tried to ignore the problems. I wasn't managing my moods. I wasn't doing very well with my career or relationships. And when I ended up having a third manic episode because I wasn't prepared. And it was after this third manic episode that I finally got the support I needed from a mental health charity in Manchester.
Hmm.
And I learned all this knowledge and coping strategies, and I had like a personal plan. I set myself goals. I did a PGCE in teaching. I started teaching English, and uh, and I managed to stay well, and I have managed to stay well until now. I live in Italy. I've got a wife and son. I haven't had any bipolar episodes for 20 years. And so, why I'm doing this is to help people to avoid years of struggle. If
Mm.
I can provide people with the knowledge and experience, and when they're like, after their first episodes, when maybe if they're like 20 and they're just experiencing it, and maybe they're just coming out of psychiatric hospital and don't really know what's going on.
Hmm.
I can pass on my knowledge, my coping strategies, so that they can manage their moods, uh, take charge of their bipolar disorder, and they don't have to spend years struggling.
Mm.
So this is what I'm doing with my course,
Yeah,
my online channel. This is the purpose of it.
yeah. I I appreciate you saying or sharing how long you were in that phase of not being able to manage your moods, and the time that you were in that, that seems to drive you to want to help other people, reclaim control of their life, their moods, sooner. And
Well, yeah, I met this guy who was the owner of this mental health charity, and he took
mhm,
me under his wing, and I worked at this charity for 5 years, and
yeah,
his wife was my counselor, and everything that they gave me during that time has kept me well for the last 20 years. And if I'd
mm,
just known all that when I was 20 years old, I could have avoided so much pain and suffering for myself.
yeah,
Um, and so, why can't other people? Why can't I pass on this knowledge and help people to avoid that same kind of struggle? That can
yeah.
really
And
torture us.
right. I'm celebrating a little over 2.5 years of, reaching my own particular balance that I defined for myself. And you've done it for 20 plus years. And so I feel like there's just so much wisdom that you have. But with regard to, going from a place of not wanting to manage your moods and then taking agency, ownership of your life, and then becoming an advocate, um, that takes a lot of courage as well to, once you've gotten better, and you've figured out a system, then it takes another level of courage to go out there and make it public that this is something that I've struggled with. Can you talk me through a little about that journey of deciding to say, okay, hey, I've gotten out of it, I'm good, and you could just say, I'm good, I'm going to move on and move on with life. But you decided to become an advocate, and that takes some vulnerability to do so. So walk me through that. I'm curious to know why it is that you decided to get into this space.
Well, I guess it's a little bit of little bit sad. The owner of the charity died. The
Mm,
counselor, his wife, also died.
mm,
She was my counselor still when she died young. And then there was a few tragic cases back home in my hometown. Um,
mm.
and these were big reasons that drove me to
Yeah,
do this feeling that I wanted to continue the work of these people from this mental health charity,
yeah,
and that um, and I wanted to challenge myself as well, and do something that would t takes me out of my comfort zone, like it's always good to have new challenges,
hmm,
work towards new goals. I mean, like I said before about setting achievable goals, and
yeah,
like I think it's important to keep setting yourself goals, you know, because otherwise, well, for me personally, I could like my mood could slip
yeah,
um, if I'm not doing something worthwhile with a purpose. My mood could slip.
right.
So so that's
I'm curious. I think one of the questions we have, we're going to be able to dive into your work, your approach. I certainly frame my own work around the 5 pillars of sleep, nutrition, movement, mindfulness, community, and curious to see your approach to it as well in one of our questions.
Yeah.
But before we do that, one of the things I was wanting to talk about was what did your journey look like to today? And there, when I was frantically looking for people and answers, and what am I the only one that's going through this? Am I the only one that feels like that are having these thoughts? And finding the and reading the narratives of mania, reading the narratives of depression gave me a sense of um, like I'm not the only one that has gone through something this intense. And so I would love to capture your narrative of being imbalanced and what that story looks like of getting your diagnosis and those 8 years that you mentioned, and then moving towards you know managing your diagnosis well.
Well, the recovery journey, started when I found the mental health charity. I was my third manic episode. I was in India. I decided that I was wanted to volunteer teaching children, and I was living in Dharmashala in the Himalayas, a very spiritual place. And but my mood was already high before I went there, and I wasn't honest with my psychiatrist. So I was like I wasn't on any medication, um, and I had this, the typical moment where God spoke to me. I was in a Tibetan monastery,
Mm-hmm.
and God spoke to me and told me that it was my mission to save the Tibetan monks from
Mm.
Chinese invaders. And
Wow.
I hadn't slept properly, so I think the fact that my mood was already high and I hadn't been sleeping led to this delusion,
Mm.
and and then this kind of turned into a mental torment for me, where I was battling Chinese enemies in my head, and I put myself in dangerous situations. I almost got myself killed walking in the Himalayas, and
Wow.
so my sister's ex-boyfriend um, found this mental health charity that I told you about,
Yeah.
and he came over, and he actually turned up the day after I almost got myself killed in the Himalayas. So that was like the right time. And he spent a week chatting with the people. Every day he talked with the people from the mental health charity, the owner, and he used their knowledge to persuade me to come back
Oh, wow.
from India. And that's when my recovery journey started, because
Mm.
when you almost get yourself killed. And also my father had to come up all the way up to the Himalayas for one night to bring my medication from the psychiatrist.
Yep.
And the guilt of that, and how much I'd put my family through, and how much I'd almost got myself killed, like that really, and then how good the charity was, all that, like it just sank in, I'm going
Yeah.
to work really hard here.
Yeah.
I'm going to do everything to make sure not to recover exactly, but to make sure I don't have any more manic episodes ever again.
Mm.
Um, and so I knew that my triggers were alcohol and marijuana, so I
Yeah.
stopped them completely, and that made a huge difference for me. And I learned to spot the early warning signs. So now I can recognize if my mood's going high, and I can get the help I need, do
Mm.
the right things for um, that. And yeah, I'm always working on it, always
Yeah.
aware of these things,
It's a
and I know
lifelong
exactly what
journey.
to do. And I've been through it 3 times, manic and depressive episodes, so I'm confident now. I'm confident that I can avoid manic episodes. And I'm confident that if I get depressed, I can get through it without ruining everything, you know?
Mhm.
Um, I, I can get, it's hard to avoid getting depressed, but if I do get depressed, I'm going to come out with my job still intact, my family's still intact.
Yeah.
I'm going to be all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
These things, and these are the kind of things, the skills that I'm teaching in my on Instagram and my course. And
One of the things you mentioned that caught my attention is this moment of realization that you wanted to make the change. And that's an observation I made for myself, and I see it in the literature that you can hire all sorts of experts to get the person to get well. But do you see I saw this in your story and in others that sometimes when I'm advising family members who are trying to figure out what to do with their loved ones, I say we continue to make the effort, but it isn't until that internal switch occurs in the person's mind that there are some severe imbalances in one's life and that they have to take ownership of it.
yeah, it's all part of the journey. Maybe you get
Yeah.
to some point in your bipolar journey where it just sinks in and you realize that, and you understand everything, and you're in the right place to start doing the right things for yourself. And
Mm,
yeah, but it's not. It's a struggle. It's not easy. I mean, it's never
right.
easy. Right?
Right. And that's we're going to start again. So those of you that are watching, both Tom and I, at least for myself, where I'm experiencing some technical difficulties, and Tom has been patient, and it's been a good exercise for how do we,
I need some
how do
yoga right now. You need to tell me about your yoga. It's
yes,
the right moment, maybe.
yeah, yeah, how I'm staying calm through these technical difficulties. Um, so
Yeah,
we'll jump into that. Um, that is the next question, and I
yeah, yeah.
technically
That's.
I could jump into that question
I'm ready for
now.
that question. I don't know. Maybe it's the time for it.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think it's good because um, being someone who lives, with the, has gone through the acute phases of bipolar disorder, and then we are talking in theory about, well, these are things that we do, but living it right now in a stressful situation where technology isn't cooperating, uh, mindfulness is something that has really helped me in this situation. So when it comes to yoga, I think when I employ yoga in bipolar recovery, it's not the kind of yoga that you see in the West where it's super flexible, super uh, balanced poses. Yoga, classically understood, is a tradition that seeks to uh, end suffering, end one's suffering, and aspire towards enlightenment. And so its application is much broader. But in the field of mental health, yoga was something when I learned that it's not about being the most bendy or balancy person or being able to do the most perfect poses. It's about quieting the mind. That was something that really attracted me because bipolar, the acute phases of hypomania and depression for me was a lot of rumination, a lot of negative thoughts that would repeat themselves in my mind. And before I built the awareness, my physical symptoms would then begin with the negative thinking, with the rumination, with the cycle, just like things really picking up very fast in my mind. And then before I knew it, it would lead to a headache, it would lead to irritability, it would lead to um, bad decisions and bad action. And so even right now, when you and I were having I was having technical difficulties, I centered my awareness to the breath, noticed that I was feeling some tension in my chest. I was feeling a little guilty that you've made this time for me and I'm not coming at my best.
Bless you.
Thank you so much. And so it's helped me out in this particular situation.
Yeah. And from my point of view, yeah, I have to like take a moment, take a breath, and not just react to the situation. Um, I've learned my mistakes from past experience where like I see, in this case it was nothing, but in previous cases, maybe I could see red and just react,
Right.
and then it's really hard to go back from there. When you realize that you've made a mistake, it's really hard to backtrack, and no matter how much you might apologize to the person who, like, had to suffer your anger,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, it, it's not can't really undo what's
Right.
happened. So it's really important to take a moment and realize that there will be consequences if you act,
Mm.
and so that's often just that thought stops me, from doing the wrong thing,
Yeah.
and causing myself all kinds of stress
Right.
and upset. Um, just and yeah, and not expecting too much from people.
Yeah.
Being patient, tolerant, not expecting too much. So if people don't quite behave or react as you'd want them to, then
Right.
you know, it's kind
What
of
what might be some of the tools that you would give to someone like me, right? Like right now in my mind, things are not going as I was hoping for this interview to go. And in my mind, I have certain tools in place to help me keep it together. But you and I both know that in our worst states, like living with bipolar disorder, one can get tipped very easily and
mm,
and irritable. And so, what might be something that you would advise someone who is, that I was really excited. Let's say I'm your client, and I say, Tom, I had this really big interview with this other social media person who does bipolar work, and I was really excited, and I just fudged it up, and I just feel terrible. Like I just feel like quitting now. Like like what and I think I was I actually lost my temper because of how terribly like technology was. I'm just like fed up with technology at this moment.
I work on not getting to that stage
Mm,
where my mood is too high
mm,
and my thoughts are racing, and I can't control my temper in a bad moment, and
mm,
I would offend someone, like, just because I'm too stressed, too anxious, I'm not well. So I work to avoid getting to that point.
mm,
Um, and and if I do get to that point, I'll work hard to get back again to to myself.
mhm.
So it's um it's about managing my moods on a day-to-day basis.
Yep.
So keeping them stable, so I don't end up putting myself in that vulnerable situation, that because if my mood gets too high and I get like desperate, and like maybe I'm even just trying to get ask for help from someone, all people see is someone maybe that they're scared of, that's behaving in a scary way, and they just automatically just would just push me away.
Mm.
So there's no hope there for me really in that situation from um so I need to like work to not get there.
Right.
Um, and to do that, like it's like the five pillars that you're saying, except that I don't do yoga. Maybe I should. I don't. But nutrition, sleep, movement, the things that you talk about, I
Yeah.
use.
Yeah. No, it's people have told me that it would be helpful for anyone to do these five pillars, and I say, yeah, exactly. Like, but the advice that I have is specifically geared towards someone that is going through, and so the where yoga fits in is in the pillar of movement. And so when I talk about movement, yoga isn't just one of the ways to move, because sometimes, especially in the depressive phase, if something is remotely intimidating, it becomes reason to not do it. And yoga for many can be intimidating. So I say, go out for a walk, walk on a treadmill, get on a bicycle, go gardening if you enjoy gardening. There's even other forms of um, ancient practices like yoga that are going to help establish the body mind connection, like Tai Chi and Qigong. So it doesn't have to be yoga per se, but the principle that I like to use is like low intensity so that it doesn't tip someone into a manic state, and long hours so that it tires you out.
Yeah. I if my if my mood's low, maybe it's the same for most people. You just want to isolate yourself and hide away. And so this is where I would do the opposite.
Mhm.
Even if I'm not good company to be around, um, even though I know people are looking at me like you can see that I'm not well, I'll still get out and meet people and do things. I've been in a situation recently where there's a theme park called Gardaland here near my home, and I've gone there knowing that I'm not really in the right mood for this, and it's really hard for me to go there and be around these happy people having a great time in a crowded, noisy place going on roller coasters. But it's better for me to be there with my son, with my family, than to
Mm,
be at home on my own in my room.
mm,
So this is the kind of thing that um, the mental health charity I work for, they had singing classes, drama classes, language classes that if you were in a low mood or depressed, it forces you to go out, meet people, and uh, go out of your comfort zone. Sing, even if you the last thing you feel like doing is sing.
right.
Uh,
Right.
this kind of thing.
Just having that sense of community also helps with getting out of the slum.
Yeah.
So for my final question, um, and I wanted to ask you, with the work that you're doing, what are you hoping to achieve? This would be a great time to talk about your pocket guide. I benefited tremendously from it. I really like your approach. Um, and I feel free to talk, tell the audience how to find you, what it is that you offer. Uh, the stage is yours.
Well, if you comment guide on Instagram, then you get sent a link to my guide, or there's also the link on my page, Instagram page, and also on TikTok and Facebook. But it's an introduction to my course because five steps. Um, is 5 of the 8 modules really from my course, and so it's an 8-week course. There's uh, there's 60 hours of videos with guidance, knowledge, information about everything related to bipolar disorder, managing bipolar disorder, but also mental health in general, and tips to like everyday life, managing your moods in different situations. There's like one group Zoom session a week,
Okay.
um, where people can meet and talk with me about everything they want, question and answers about bipolar disorder. And there's like a one-to-one Zoom session where people can create their own personal plan with me to work on.
Yep.
There's a coping strategy workshop to then, people are sharing the different coping strategies and what plans, and then you can learn from other people what plans might you could incorporate into your own personal plan. And there's a Facebook group so that you get ongoing support. You have lifetime access to this, so you can continue the Zoom meetings, as you like achieve goals, manage, and manage your moods, and so this is I'm going to I've launched this course I launched this course in August, and I'm relaunching it again March or April, and looking to build up the group and pass on my experience, knowledge this way.
Yeah. I think you're a valuable resource. When I look through your pocket guide, and I feel that it's someone that's going to be there for me, someone who's going to be available for my questions, uh, all sorts of questions. How does bipolar affect this part of life? Job and school and relationships, and whether or not I can travel, and does the weather affect me? And just having someone with the lived experience, um, I sense that there would be a sense of like someone's there, someone's got my back. Is how I feel when I come across your work.
Yeah, that's the point, that I've got your back, but there's also other people, like a community as well, who are sharing, like someone like you with the yoga. This is a gap I've got here, because I've never used it myself. It doesn't. I tried it and it didn't work for me, but I know that it would work really well for other people, and it's great to have
Mm,
someone to be able to like explain that. And it would be if you were part of my group, for example, and you were able to pass on your knowledge about yoga to everyone else, that's great.
yeah.
And and
Yeah,
then
I'd be happy to.
and
uh,
then people could decide, is that for them, is it not? But it's, everyone, people sharing ideas and working out what's best for them.
yes, yes. Well, I will always like to give the speaker the stage to give any final remarks, any message to the audience who is listening. What are your final messages before we adjourn for the day?
Well, it's a bipolar disorder. It is it is manageable, and it does, with experience, it does get easier. You can uh, with the right skills, with the right coping strategies, you can avoid manic episodes. You can deal with depressive episodes in a smooth way where it doesn't have to ruin your life. Um, with it's it's something that if you can get the right support, the right knowledge, the right skills, then it doesn't have to be something that defines who you are and controls your life. You you can have a family, you can have a good career, you can live a good life, a good lifestyle.
Yeah. Thank you for that message of hope. I think a lot of people need it. I know I certainly didn't believe it when people would say that to me, but when someone who has lived it and who was on the other side say it, that meant a lot to me. So thank you for your message, Tom. And thank you for joining me. Again, apologies for all the technical difficulties, but under the editing table, I'll be able to make something presentable. So thank you for your patience, and I appreciate you demonstrating, your skills with during this. I think it's always better to demonstrate as opposed to just telling. Right? One of my my writing professors would say, "Good writing is where you don't tell me, show me," and I think this was a really good not expected, not planned, but exercise in seeing your method, your way of doing of
Yeah,
dealing with.
I didn't just pick up my laptop and smash it on the floor and storm off in rude.
Yeah,